Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me.
Hi, welcome to this part. Okay, but look, if you haven't watched part number 1, please stop now and go and watch that, okay? Because it explains in detail about this whole study. And each one of these parts doesn't do that. And it doesn't even talk about adding the 17s and gematria and all that other stuff. Go to that first one first. But if you have already done that, welcome to the next part of that isn't what it says. Okay, defining faith. Now faith, Hebrews 11:1. Now faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. If you've been around Christianity for even a year or two, you're going to know that verse. You're going to have been told that that's the definition of faith. That's what it says, doesn't it? Now faith is substance and hope, and that's what faith is. No, it's not. It's not. That isn't what it says, right? The verse in Hebrews 11:1 has been used almost exclusively by many ignorant, including pastors, which shouldn't be ignorant. I don't know why they do it then, to define faith, right? Indeed, the statement of Paul seems eminently appropriate. That's the way, but it's only appropriate if we think of in English. First of all, the word faith is a verb, okay? Now faithing is this, that makes it different right away, right? But that's not the way we look at it in English, see? It makes a different thing in English. So Hebrews 11:1 does not define faith. Yeah. I know. But you'll see that it only describes the effect of faith, or the position of faith, or the implications of faith. It doesn't describe faith itself. You'll see. I mean, while it's true that a believing attitude and even a sure understanding of God's reality are the ground for faith, they're not verbs. And faith is a verb, as you'll find out. Faith is a verb. Belief and knowledge, that's something you hold, not do, right? So faith is a verb, right? It's an act, an action. A verb is an action, an act that's based on a conviction of some belief, and it's carried out on that conviction by the confidence that the belief is true until the end. That's what it is. Okay? A proper paraphrase of that verse isn't anything like we understand it or have been taught. It's an act of conviction is the essential grounding claim of our expectations and evidentially exposes invisible practices. Is that the way you understood? Now faith is the substance of things hoped for? Not the way I understood it. Right? So we're going to go to Strong's Concordance, and we're going to look up all the definitions of Hebrews 11:1. Okay? And then what we're going to do is the same thing like we did with the transsubstitution. We're going to look at the words, right? Faith, substance, things, hoped, evidence, and seen. Okay? So the very first word, faith, is number 4102 in Strong's. 4102. And what's the most important thing about a Strong's definition? The very first thing that's listed, right? Okay. Well, the very first thing that's listed on 4102 is a from. It says from 3982. Oh, okay. So we have to go to 3982 in Strong's and see what the definition of 3982 is. It's the same as grace. The very first thing listed on 3982 is a primary verb. A primary verb. Well, let me go on and then we'll get to this. Okay? And it means basically to convince. Okay? But the definition for faith is persuasion. Well, now wait a minute. If faith comes out of a primary verb, it means it's an action. How do you get an action out of the word persuasion? You know, it's just like grace. Okay? Persuasion is a noun. It's a condition. You know. In other words, credence. That's not an action. Moral conviction. That's not an action either. Right? The last one is reliance on Christ. Oh, now we've got at least what looks like an action, maybe. When you rely on something, you're acting, okay? Pytho is the primary verb, 3982. It's got 12 different things listed in there. 12 different things that are all actions. Watch this. Agree. Primary verb, agree. Agree. Well, okay, you can agree. That's an action. Yeah, that's true. Assure. Well, you can be sure. Okay, there's an action. Believe. English and believe in English is not a verb. That's why you have to look up the definitions of these words to find out what they say in Greek. Believe in Greek is an action. Be content. How is that an action? Make friend. There's one. Obey. Persuade. Yeah. Trust. That can go a couple of different ways. And yield. Okay. So, out of all of the words for Pytho 3982, the word for faith takes the word believe, the aspect of believe, out of Pytho and makes a new word out of it. Pistis, P-I-S-T-I-S. P-I-S-T is the root, okay? And that word says action, believe. That's what it says. Believing action. That's all it says. Any believing action is a faith act in Greek. Walking down the stairs is a faithful action, believing that the stairs will hold you and not run, some rotten step make you fall and break your neck. Okay? The word for faith is acting belief. What is belief then? Look up belief. 4100, instead of 4102, 4100, from, it comes directly out of a different word. What word? Faith. Faith. The word for belief is P-I-S-T, the root, and E-U-O. So it defines the kind of belief that we see in the action belief word, right? And when you put all three of those words together, you get belief in something God has said. That's what it is. That's why faith saves you, because you're acting on something God has said, right? Substance. Substance. I don't like substance. I think it's a weak translation. It's number 5287, and it's from a compound word, which means the first word is 5259, under. Under. The second word is 2476, to stand. Something that stands under. Okay? Well, fortunately, the definition that's listed for substance says a setting under. A setting under. A support. It's a verby kind of a word. Huh? It does something. In other words, figuratively, concretely, it's essence. Abstractly, it's assurance. Remember, assure was one of the Greek words that came out of, one of the words that came out of Pytho. Things. This is really bad. Things. If I hold up a lamp and say, what is this? You say, that's a thing. It would be a thing, wouldn't it? It's a lamp, but it's a thing. I put 5 lamps on that table. What do you see over that table? I see 5 things. Things. We know what things are in English, but we don't know what things are in Greek because the translators put down things, right? It's number 4229. 4229, and it comes from a different word. Okay. From a different word, 4238. It's a verb. It may not be a primary verb, but it's a verb. Huh? A verb. And it means to practice. How can things be practice? Huh? I mean, you'd have to write down a whole paragraph to set the context to make things work as a practice. Right? The definition even tells you that. The definition for things is a deed, an affair. Huh. And then lastly, it says an object. Next word is hoped, and that's one of the very few things where it is what we said. You know, that is what it says. 1679 is the number for hoped, but it comes from 1680. It's only one number away, so it's almost the same thing, right? 1680 means to anticipate or expectation, and it's always translated as hope. And the only difference is between 1679 and 1680 is that 1679 is the past tense. See, so it's basically the same thing we know. Okay. Evidence, another weak translation as far as I'm concerned. 1650, and it's the only time it's ever used, unique usage, but it comes from 1651. 1651 means confute or admonish. Admonish. But the definition of evidence is proof. Proof. Conviction. Well, if you're convinced, that's the same as proof, feeling proof, but evidence isn't a good translation there. You know, it's okay, that's all. Because all of the evidence that's brought to a court may not be accepted. Well, he said that she said. No, we don't accept that. That's hearsay. But it's evidence, but it's hearsay. Okay? Why not say something that more the idea of proof? Seen, that's another one we know about. Okay? 991, it is a primary verb, so it's really seeing in Greek, but it's seen in translation. Can't be seen. Can't be seen. Can't be looked at. That's what the definition says. To look at, literally or figuratively. Okay, we've got all the translations. I mean, all the translated words, not the translated words, the definition words from all of those words in Hebrews 11:1. Let's go and do what I call trans-substitution. Transubstitution. See, what we're going to do is we're going to write all of the... I urge you to do this exercise, okay? It's a little bit of work, but that's what research is, right? Reading the Bible doesn't save anybody, right? You have to know what it says to know what you have to do in order to get saved, okay? So we take all of the English words, write them down, put spaces in between, and then under each English word, we'll put down what we found was the definition for that word in Greek. 2 or 3 words maybe. And maybe you'll have 15 or 20 words out of a 5-word sentence, okay? But you put all those down, and then you put all the definitions into a sentence that makes some sense, but you do all the definitions. And then you find out what all of the little details, aspects are of what the verse says. And it's really good because it's almost like translating the Bible, right? It does what the translators are doing. It just doesn't put them all in a proper sentence and all that, okay? So, after we get the definitions in there, we're going to rewrite 5 times to find out what the verse really means, right? Right? Now, faith is the substance of things hoped for. The evidence, now faith is the evidence of things not seen. Okay? And what did we find the word faith really is? Action. Right? Here's another exercise that will open up all kinds of stuff in the Bible to you. Every time you're reading, in whatever you're reading, if the word faith comes up, take a pencil and put a little light pencil line through the word faith, and then take your pen and on top of that word faith, put action. You can do that as you do your daily reading, if you do daily reading. Every time you see faith, substitute the word action for it. Then go back and read the sentence over again and say action instead of faith. And all of a sudden you have to ask, well, wait a minute, if it's an action, what action was that? Huh? The woman with the issue of blood crawled through the crowd, touched Jesus' hem, and was healed. Why? Because she believed that that's what would happen if she acted that way. What did Jesus say? He turns around and he says, your faith, your faithing, your action, your faith has made you whole. Not what he did. He didn't do anything. He only felt virtue go out of him. He didn't turn around and say, I heal you. He didn't heal anybody that way. Huh? He did what they wanted to be done because they believed if he did that, they'd be healed. And that let God's healing power go out and heal them. All right? Now, action. Action. Action is the essence, the main part, the essence of an expected object, hoped for. And action is the proof of deeds, practices that can't be looked at. Okay? We'll know that down a little bit. Now, action, we still don't know what action. Right? Now, action is the grounding title deed of the expected, hoped. And action is the proof of repeated deeds, practices, that can't be looked at. Okay? Okay, let's define something else here. Some action. Oh, well, now action just means any old action. You know, scratching your head is an action. Some action, we don't know which one yet, gives us claim to expectations. And some actions proves invisible deeds. Okay, following this so far? Okay, What about this some action? What exactly some action is this? An act of conviction. Oh, it doesn't say faith, it says an act of conviction. An act of conviction is the essential grounding claim of our expectations. And some action of conviction is evidentially exposes invisible practices. Okay? What is that act of conviction? Not any act of conviction, because, again, walking down the stairs is an act of conviction, and your conviction is that the stairs will hold you and won't fall through. Right? What act of conviction is it? That word faith is 6 words long, right? And acting in trust of God's word. That's what faith says in that word. It doesn't say faith in English. It says act in trust of God's word. What is that? It's our claim. When we act in God's word, we claim God's promise of his giving us, unseen process of giving us salvation by the implantation of his Spirit. See that? Okay, the next one is going to be defining rest.